Hi everyone, this is Bex. I thought it would be fun for this video to try some more traditional ASMR and take you through a scene that I've been working on my model railroad. Some of the supplies we're going to be using in this video are going to be Woodland Scenics supplies. This is medium ballast in a gray blend. Ballast is what we will use for the rails and the ties. Here we have some fine turf. This is going to be what we use for ground cover. This is a burnt grass color, so it's going to be a little darker. That's going to be our base. And on top of that, we're going to sprinkle in some coarse turf in a light green color. That's going to give the ground some texture and hopefully make it pop and give it a little bit of contrast as well. You'll see that behind me I've already I've already laid out our road using some plaster, and we're going to be painting that with some stone gray paint. This is a Woodland Scenics paint, but you could find a similar color anywhere. And what we're doing here is just creating some cracks and chips in the road to make it look a little bit more worn. I really want this to have a worn, well-used look like it's been here for decades. And that just means making little dents and potholes as we go through. And here we're going to start laying some ballast. This is that Woodland Scenics gray blend. I should add that I am not sponsored by Woodland Scenics. It's just one of the go-to brands that a lot of folks will use for model railroading or diorama building. I've used this on previous layouts that I've built when I was younger, so it's just become my go-to. And we're just sprinkling it on with a tablespoon, just kind of getting it on there, and we're going to smooth it out and get it into all the nooks and crannies in a moment. So we're just using a very fine paintbrush to spread the ballast around, get it between the ties on the inside and outside of the rail, and just make it look a little bit more cleaned up. Now let's get down to painting and giving this plaster area some weathering. We're going to use that stone gray paint, and it's going to be really wet. This is going to be almost like a wash. You see in the plate there, I had a lot of water. And we're just going to spread this around and get a good base. If you are a fellow hobbyist or diorama maker, please don't cringe at my methods. I'm by no means a professional. I just kind of do what works for me, whether I'm painting or laying down the ballast or the ground cover. You know, I get there eventually, in my own way, and that's what I encourage anyone doing this hobby to do. I've got a little sponge there in my hand that I'm using to spread around and soak up the paint to some extent. That's going to give it some lighter areas and some darker areas, and give it that light little bit of weathering that we're looking for. And here's a look at the finished product. All the ballast is down, the paint is in place, and I think it's looking pretty good. Some close-up looks at some of the texture. That wash really brought the texture out. And now, here's how we hold all of that ballast in place. This is a pretty common mixture of water and white glue with a tiny drop of dish soap. to help it break the surface tension. And I'm just using a pipette, a little pipette, to drop it and soak the ballast all the way down to the table so that it stays in place. When this dries, we're going to have a nice, solid ballast layer that's not going to go anywhere. Now, because we've laid down that glue, you'll notice I spread it around on some of the areas where the ballast is not, because that is the area our ground cover is going to start. And I've got my trusty tablespoon, and we're just going to tap it out and get that base coat down on the table. I'm not trying to fill in every spot with that. If there's areas that still shine through on the table, that's okay, because remember, we're going to be coming back to this with some of that coarse turf on top to give this some fun texture. Just doing some light taps, tap, tap, tap with the spoon to get all of that ground cover nice and settled. And I'm even bringing it over the ballast in some spots because in real life, grass would grow in between the rocks. And this, of course, is what it looks like with the two different turfs applied to each other to give it that texture. It looks better every moment. And here we have the building that's going to make this scene shine. Miss Molly's Diner. Also a Woodland Scenics building. This is pretty fun because it uses their Just Plug lighting system, which, as the name implies, you just drop the wires through your table and you can plug them into a hub and attach them to a switch for easy lighting. I've also got some light poles that are going to go along that Woodland Scenics fence, in the corners of the fence where it changes direction. But first, let's mark out where the diner's going to go on the table and where we're going to drill for our lighting wire. X marks the spot, so we come in with our drill, and we just get right through it. There's the finished hole. We just feed the wire down there. I didn't film the installation of the hub because it's just looking at a bunch of plywood and wires and cross beams under the table, all that bench work. But if that's something you guys want to see in the future, when I add more to the layout, let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to get under there and try some different angles. Now that we've got the diner down, we're just drilling the same kind of pilot holes for the wires on the light posts. Now, the light post wires do not have a little hub connector on the bottom. That is because we are actually going to, under the table, we'll be running a few different light poles together. We're going to separate the white and the black wires and connect each light to its own little hub connector. In the background there, you can see my turntable pit has kind of become a staging area for all the supplies I'm not currently using. Don't worry, I do keep it clean. It does move. Hopefully soon we'll have a video on the rail yard and the turntable area, because there are some fun things I have in mind for that spot as well. And here's that finished product again. Please don't mind the circle in the road. I accidentally left a soda can there. I will remove that with time. But to really finish up the diner, we're going to drop in the accompanying road sign. Sadly, this doesn't light up, but maybe in the future I'll come back to this with some custom LEDs. In the meantime, I've stationed it under one of the light posts. And here we're going to be using some HO scale or 1/87 scale cars. I've only got these two for now from my semi-local model railroad store. It's about an hour away from me, which is why it's semi-local. We're going to have some outdoor tables, an outdoor seating area for the diner, with some people enjoying a little picnic. The lore I have in mind for the diner is that it was built on the spot of an old warehouse, which is why the concrete surrounds the tracks. And now, to finish that up, this old Santa Fe observation car, and we just get that down on the tracks and it'll find its home with the diner. And it looks pretty good. I turned off the lights in the room to give it some a little bit more realism. I'm super happy with it. And let's run some trains through, just so we can see. I think that looks pretty good. So if you all like this format, let me know in the comments. Give it a like, and please subscribe, because no matter what, I'm going to try to post more. And enjoy the sound of the trains. This is my Fox Valley Models Hiawatha with matching cars. And we're just going to let that run for y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.